So,
I was talking to a friend.
yeah, I was as always, I am talking to a friend of mine. And the conversation for tonight that I wanted to have is about truth in a way. I guess we'll see where it goes. We'll see where it goes because I have some information that I just want to share and some theories that I would like to go over. And if you think that I am off the mark, please let me know. But I always thought, I almost forgot this. I always thought that this stuff was kind of odd. It never ceased to amaze me how we'll believe something that because it's repeated and we'll never check and see if it's an actuality. Like the amount of people who in middle America believe that black people are the problem, that we are 50% of the people who are incarcerated, even though we are only 13 point, what is it, 13 point whatever percent of the entire population. But they won't tell you that things like for welfare, you know, black mothers in the 80s, Ronald Reagan ad infinitum introduced the welfare queen. Remember that? I don't know if you remember that. It was during the crack era and how all the people who were utilizing the welfare benefits were women who were on welfare and they were using crack. And it was crazy. He actually blamed a whole people for that. And the truth of the matter is found that 44% of the people who utilize welfare benefits are white people. And of the white people, 31% of those are children. 27% of black adults and children utilize welfare as opposed to 21% of Hispanic adults and 35.8% of Hispanic children. The poverty rate, again, we're 13.6% of the population, but we're 17.9% of the poverty rate. How do we get to believing these things about ourselves, like we're always poor, black people live in poor neighborhoods? Because we perpetuate these ideas amongst ourselves, oddly enough. We say things about one another in our own neighborhoods, and we begin to blame each other, indirectly ourselves, for our own conditions when we know that these conditions weren't created by us. They were created for us. And we have to stop swallowing the Kool-Aid by perpetuating the ideas of patriarchy. That's really what it is. It's the people, and beyond that, there's a couple of words I just like people to get familiar with: oligarchy and class. You really need to understand what those are because we live in an oligarchy. Just like we think Russia's an oligarchy because of all the oil barons. But the United States is the same way. And they have so many different industries that they have got themselves into, not just the banking, which even though a lot of that started over in Italy, it got over here. And now a lot of the banking is done with a whole lot of American companies. We have to begin to understand that these conditions are created and tell the truth. The reason that many of us can't tell the truth, though, is because of what we're told and what we're fed and what's repeated to us in a very insidious way, I find. To me, it's insidious when you constantly repeat something to somebody over and over and over and over and over, particularly kids who are formidable, who are in their formative years. I was looking up some statistics. I just showed a friend of mine, a young lady that I follow on TikTok. And she was talking about not having children. She was raised in a very religious house. Her mother abused her, though. Abused her and her sister. She would beat them. And this one particular young lady, she would have her arrested sometimes after beating her and then would kick her out of the house. She says she's been homeless several times because of her mother as a teenager, like still trying to go to high school type teenager. That whole thing. So we began to ingest narratives like she's a Christian woman. She must be a good woman. But in the meantime, you don't understand what it is she's doing behind closed doors to her children. Oh, she goes to church. She's a nurse. She's a this. She's a that. And we take all that and we put it in front of all the horror that we know exists in that scenario. I was raised in a Christian family, so I was inundated with biblical bullshit. And I'm not going to make it sound any better than that because it's bullshit. Until you can prove to me that any of that stuff happened on a historical level, is biblical bullshit. Which made me look up a couple of words. Because there's a word that I had to get out of my fucking vocabulary, and that word is faith. If you ask most Christians who are of any church going and listening regularity, about faith, they'll tell you that faith is evidence of things not seen. That sounds fucking insane.
It's actually the substance of things hoped for.
The
evidence of things not seen.
Substance, thank you. A
Christians
former
will
Christian
tell
will
you
correct
better get
me.
it right,
Thank you.
honey.
Thank you.
You
The
better get it
substance
right.
of things hoped for. Now listen to this bullshit. The substance of things hoped for and evidence of things not seen. That sounds fucking insane. Because particularly in this day and age, we have evidence for almost anything that you can just about imagine. In fact, the human mind can't comprehend all the things that we have come to understand. A lot of it, you have to really delve into that particular area of expertise to begin to understand how quantum physics works. The layperson isn't going to just understand. You have to have gone to class. You have to have studied to begin to understand quantum mechanics. You don't first find out what quantum is. But before I get into all that, the other word that I choose, because again, I was brought up in a household where faith was a word that was thrown around all the goddamn time. I put goddamn in there on purpose. The other word is trust. Firm belief in the reliability, truth, ability, and strength of someone or something. Now, you can't have reliability if you haven't encountered something. Have you ever encountered the God that they talk about in the Bible? I'm not talking about what you felt. Encountered. Reliably. And the truth. Let's talk the truth. Something. Firm belief in the reliability. Truth is the next word. Truth. The truth is you have never seen God. Not in the way that it has been described to you in those books. You haven't. No matter how much you want to believe that you have had this encounter, I can guarantee you there's no measurable way that you have had that encounter. It is a thought. And it will remain so. Because that doesn't exist on the plane that we have been able to measure. There's a whole lot of things that we can measure. The God in that book can't be measured. So there's no reliability. There's no truth in that. And why would you want to accept that as truth? Why would you want to accept the God that was given to you in that book as truth? Why? Did you read the fucking book? We have a few points that we would like to go to. Let's start with Noah. Every animal. Every animal fit on a boat. Every animal. You want to believe that every animal fit on a boat and that they stayed at sea, basically, for 40 days and 40 nights at least. Though that's how long it rained. They were actually at sea longer. They were actually floating longer. So you have all these animals on the boat. You only have 2 of each. None of them died in this journey, allegedly. You had enough time to get all the food for all these individual animals. Most of these animals are carnivores. So you got all these carnivores not eating each other on this boat because God ordained it. And you have every single animal on the planet on this boat. And you have disposed of all the dung properly. You have gotten rid of all the waste so that nobody has caught any diseases, in addition to everybody not eating each other. And it's only you and your family on the boat, and y'all are going to populate the world again. Again, we have this whole incest trope. Because that's how it began in the beginning. If you believe what is told in many churches on any given Sunday in this country, if you were to believe what they tell you, then this whole world began through incest. You're comfortable with that. And that's what's funny to me. That you are comfortable with the incest trope. Nobody questions it. We don't get that out. We do not stop service and go past pastor.
No, we do.
Who?
As a kid, you do.
As a kid, you ask your parents or your Sunday school teacher and they shut you down. You don't raise your hand during service, because I know in the church that I went to, my head would have come clean off my fucking shoulders if I had tried some shit like that. Let my hand go up while the preacher is preaching. Yeah. No, I would never, I don't know what church you went to, but I could never. My grandmother's name was on the pew. there was no fucking way I would do no shit like that. Like, really, literally, it was the Riley family. Yeah,
well,
literally.
For all of the believers who want to go to a church where you can raise your hand
Mm-hmm.
and ask questions, it's called Faith in Christ Center. I guarantee you the pastor name is Pastor Linda Mercer. And I'm going to tell you why. I asked her a question after church, and she was like, well, why do you... I said, well, you was having service. I didn't want to interrupt you. She was like, you're not interrupting me. If you wanted the knowledge of the word of God, you stop me. If it's something you don't understand, I don't care. It's not about me. Now, I don't believe in everything they preach because I'm wiser now. But
she will answer
there
you.
is a church
where
you can raise your hand on a Sunday while she's preaching and ask a question.
If you are so inclined, have at it. I don't have the time. Now, the next thing that we need to get to is after this whole boat situation, all the animals got off safely. Nobody was eating, nothing like that. Not to mention, there's another thing that we know as subspecies. So if there was a different, like, let's say a cat, let's take a regular cat. There are Siamese cats. There are tabby cats. There are different types of cats. Did he have one of every different type of... He would have to if they exist.
How did he gather all these motherfuckers?
Where did you... Because they weren't... y'all, anybody want to take that?
Where he get all of these motherfuckers?
You were in one part of the world, but animals from... So there was a walrus and some penguins that walked clear across the planet over to Africa to get to where you were, to get to this ark in time. Or did y'all pick them up on the way? I don't know what happened. Anybody who would like to answer those questions, seriously... No, dead ass, seriously. Because I really want to know how your mind compensates for the fact that there are all these different things in the world, and they were supposedly lodged on a boat at one time, waiting for the water to go down, and everybody got off, and this is the world that we have now through the family. The one family, incest, brought us here. Okay, we'll move on to number 2. After everybody got off this boat, God promised that he would not do it again, and he gave the world a rainbow as a reminder, allegedly. God now needs a reminder not to commit mass genocide. The God that created everything needs a reminder not to commit genocide, not to wipe out the whole fucking planet. He needs a rainbow. Whatever it was they smoked when they wrote this, I want some. Question, let's go back to the beginning. Because I had to go look this up. I didn't remember from Sunday school. In the beginning, when God was creating everything, on the first day, he created the heavens and the earth. Then, on the 4th day, he created the sun. How did 4 days pass with no sun?
Yeah.
He created on the 4th day the sun, the moon, and the stars. You couldn't have a nighttime with no moon, no stars. You couldn't have a day with no sun, but he didn't get around to it until the 4th day. How was there a day?
Exactly.
I would like y'all to ask questions while you are sitting in these pews and giving up your money, because they are there to get your money. It is a business, and it's a tax-free business, and it's a multi-billion-dollar tax-free business. You have really got to stop listening to this shit, or ask enough questions to begin a journey of your own is all I ask you. That is all this is about. I am really not trying to make fun. What I am doing is pointing out inconsistencies in information that you accept every single day without question. It's we have to stop. We have to stop. Sodom and Gomorrah. What does God have against innocent people? In Sodom and Gomorrah, when he destroyed both of those cities, he destroyed everybody in the cities, the wicked and the innocent among them. What did the innocent do? God of this Bible thing. What did they do? And his wife looked wistfully back, because that was where her whole life was. All of a sudden, fire and brimstone are allegedly raining down from the sky. Her husband whisks her away and tells her, don't look back. But her whole life is there. And God is so petty that he allegedly turns her into a pillar of salt. Yeah, it's the petty for me. It's the petty. We get down to more mass genocide. In Joshua 6 through 12, the Canaanites were killed by the Israelites. Proverbs 23, 13, and 14. This is something that a lot of people use to justify the way that they rear their children. Spare the rod, spoil the child comes from right here. So is that what we're doing? And while we're at it, Deuteronomy 22, 28 through 30, marry a rapist, ladies. If you are raped by a man, you are supposed to marry him, according to this book. How does this sound logical to any female, anybody who was born female, anybody who feels feminine, anybody who identifies as female? How does any of this make sense? How does this sound like something that you want to support? How does this sound like something that you want in society? How do you vote for people who use this book? How do you do that? How? This message is against you. These people don't want the best for you. Marry your rapist? But it says it right there. So if we're going to do anything, I think we should start there. I think every rapist that is in prison, you should go and get the victim. And we should have a large wedding. If you really believe this, then that is what should happen. If you really believe this whole book is true, then that is what we should be doing. We should be going into the jails, getting the rapists, finding their victims, and marrying them together. Letting the men out of prison go home with their new wives that they raped. Because that's what it says in the book. I don't understand how y'all can get behind this. I really don't. I really would like to. What else in Deuteronomy? Let's see. Oh, unmarried women. If you consensually have sex with a man, you should be stoned to death. I know some of y'all are going, oh, that's the old book and it's still the book. Y'all still vote for people who use this book as their platform to sell you lies and dreams. And you vote for them because they use this book as a platform because they think that that's something that you all have in common, but you haven't read it. You haven't read it well enough and asked enough questions. Actually, you don't even have to ask questions. If you come across a passage where it says women are supposed to marry their rapists, this should be you closing the book and disavowing yourself from the religion. It should be that simple. There should be no other conversation. Like, what else is there? The ifs, ands, and buts that y'all give this God are fucking ridiculous. Y'all always got something to, but it's nothing. It's a bunch of patriarchal white men, mostly.
Who is mad as hell at a woman.
Who is mad as hell because they don't get pussy. And now they have made up all these rules in order to keep you in line.
Some women piss these men
Many
off,
women piss them off.
And that's what happened.
This is really the original incel fucking directory or guidebook or whatever you want to call it. Because no conscious man, no thinking being from this fucking century would read this and go, yeah, this is a good idea. I think I'm going to devote my life to this. No, you've been told over and over again, and you are scared because you think that if you don't put some sort of stock in this, that if you die, you're going to go to a fiery place. But I don't understand how that is even possible because once you die, you can't feel anything. So how are you going to burn? I need you to make it make sense. And I need you to also please tell me how you believe in a God that sacrificed his own kid but would kill a woman or look down on a woman for having an abortion. You sacrificed your own son, allegedly knowing everything that would happen, but yet you would hold it against a woman who had an abortion because her uncle raped her? That's diabolical thinking. For you to believe that is fucking crazy. Your lack of critical thinking skills terrifies me. Let's keep going. Leviticus, which is one of my fucking favorite books. How to pick your slaves and enslave them. You should, how to pick the best from among your tribe or from other tribes. This is what they used to hold black people in bondage for over 400 years in this country, and black motherfuckers still pick up this book and go, this is a good idea. And what, you know who really terrify me? The people who have PhDs and doctorates and have gotten specialties and all these different things and haven't taken enough conscious time in their own personal life to dig out this religion and will go and put their money in a tithing plate on Sunday. Y'all terrify me. Because you're supposed to be the leaders of the community. But people see you doing this dumb shit and they have no idea what to do. Now we're causing more confusion. You have all this fucking education and you haven't done any work in your spiritual life. You haven't come to find out that this book is bullshit and all the reasons why it is bullshit. You've done a dissertation about some shit that none of your constituents will read. But here we sit with this bullshit and they're rah-rahing for you because you stand with them on this. Fuck out of here. Oh. One of my favorite things is when God sent the bears to kill the 40 children because they made fun of the man because he was bald. Y'all don't remember that story? You can look this up. There was a man walking down the street. He was bald. There was a group of children. The children made fun of this man because he was bald. God sent 2 bears to maul 40 children because he's a good God.
Some bald-headed man got mad at these kids.
Hey!
That's what happened.
Hey! Don't talk about bald-headed men.
Some bald-headed man got mad because some kids was picking with them.
No, I'm just saying, this is what they got in the book.
Yeah, he put that in the script.
He gonna send the bear after y'all asses. Excuse me.
Wow, I never knew that.
Yes, you can Google that. That is a little hayride down Google. Also, this is one of my, this is the one that started the whole kick and caboodle. Abraham and Isaac. This is, you know, the whole split in the religions and things. Abraham, God tells you to kill your son. You go, yeah. What were you smoking? Because anybody who does that today goes to jail. If you really believe in this book that much, anybody who's ever killed their children and said that God told them to do it, you should let them out of prison. They should be allowed to go home, get married again, and have more kids. I think that's a good idea. Since we're going to believe the bullshit, let's go full steam with the bullshit. Let's find them a mate. Any woman who's in prison who said God told her to kill her kids, she drowned them in the bathtub or she cut their throats in the sleep, yeah, let's find her a husband. Her ovaries still work. The lack of critical thinking in this time, oh, well, that was way back then. You know what else was going on way back then? People were finding foods that they didn't know the effects of and eating it in the middle of deserts and shit. That's a lot of else what was going on back then. People were still figuring out what was actual food and what wasn't. So people found things and ate things that probably caused them some really weird effects. And if you had a penchant for writing, goddammit, your story got told. Regardless of how much it sounded like bullshit. Let's keep going. This is a name I've always had trouble with. Jephthah. Jephthah. Jephthah was worse than fucking Isaac. Jephthah burned his daughter alive for God. You can Google that. It's Google. It's all of this. I just sat with Google today. Me and Google had a good afternoon. I just sat down and found some things, asked Google some interesting questions, and Google came up with some stuff for me. And I know this stuff I remember it from, you know, growing up and being in church. I remember all of this stuff. I'm like, oh, but I couldn't rattle it off the top of my head. I'm in the process of deconstructing all that bullshit, so I wouldn't pull it up immediately. That's what Google is for. So here we go. Oh, let's not forget Job. Do you know the story of Job? Yeah, if anybody who's not familiar with Job, Job is one of the most interesting stories in the Bible to me. And the reason is because God and the devil are somewhere having a conversation, allegedly, right? Wherever this is outside of space and time.
Take my man, Job.
Yeah.
My son, Job.
And they're having this conversation, and they see Job, and God is like, yeah, that's my dude. Like, he is so upright, and it's that and the third. And the devil is like, yeah, that's because he got everything. Look, he got everything. Like, if I had everything, I could praise you too. Like, that's nothing. And God said, well, I bet you if he had nothing, he would still praise me. Okay, let's stop right here real quick. Why is God bargaining with me?
Exactly.
Like, why is this exchange happening? And who recorded it?
If you God.
Who recorded it?
Who recorded all this?
Who recorded it?
Who was standing next to God when
Hold on, we're not even talking about people though right now. Who recorded this conversation between God and the devil and got it down in order to know that this is how Job fell upon all his hardship? Who?
Where were you?
Allegedly, this was written by Moses, but we've come to understand through technology that Moses didn't exist. So who wrote this? Somebody who had good shrooms? Who? You following something and you haven't even done the research on it. And you're feeding it to your children and it's poison. It's like this supermarket. Everything in the middle aisle is poison. Everything between the front cover of the Bible and the back cover of the Bible is poison. Don't eat from in the middle. Yeah, so Job sacrificed, God and the devil have this wager. God says, look, you can do everything but kill Job. And the devil's like, okay, bet. Now, there was no money exchange from what I understand. There was no houses. Nobody got a come up from this. It was just to fuck with Job. It was just to fuck with Job because he was so upright. So the devil takes everything away. He kills his wife. He kills all of his cattle. He inflicts him with boils. He takes his children away from him and he kills all his children. And he just leaves Job like twisting in the wind for like years. And Job is finally, the only thing that Job says, and this pisses God off that Job says this. As a matter of fact, allegedly according, huh? Why hast thou forsaken me? He asked God, why hast thou forsaken me? That pisses God off, allegedly, from what I read. You're mad because you made a wager with the devil for all my shit? And the fact that I recognize that you have forsaken me is pissing you off? God's balls are yeah, that's wild. That's nasty work right there. You let the devil take all of his stuff and just left him twisting in the wind. For you replenished it later. You could have left me the fuck alone in the first place. That's what a good loving God would have did. He would have told the devil, who he created allegedly, to fuck off. That's my dude. You're not going to touch him. You're not going to touch his family. You're not going to touch his land. You're not going to touch his life. But that wasn't what the devil, that wasn't what God was into that day. Because remember, God works in mysterious ways.
But that wasn't nothing. He allowed his son to be born. Nailed to the cross. So that's nothing.
And knew it was going to happen according to the belief of Christians. If you believe that your God is all-knowing, all-seeing, all-powerful, then he knew in advance that Jesus was going to go through all that. And this sent him here to go through it anyway. Just like most parents, you bring your kids here and all the troubles of the world you know are going to be upon them are upon them. And the world eats up your children. Yeah, sit with that. Where was I? Back to the part about community. Because we have in our community the reputation that black fathers are absent, when actually every year since the 50s, the amount of black men who are involved in their children's lives has risen steadily. It is now just that a little over half of all the fathers are still involved in their children's lives, for black parents anyway. I only looked up that statistic. That's all I need to know. So we have to stop feeling like when women get on stages, particularly public stages, when they go on these talk shows and shit, and you want to down black men and all these black men ain't shit. And no, the ones that you chose ain't shit. That ain't got nothing to do with the rest of us. Yeah, it has nothing to do with the other black men in the world. It has to do with the ones in your neighborhood that you fuck with. Men too, similarly. It's not all the bitches. No, it's the ones your nasty, dirty ass dick keep attracting. It's them. You keep attracting the same women because you keep doing the same things. You keep attracting the same men because you keep doing the same things. It's just not going to change. But anyway, yeah. You know what really confused me too? This dynamic. Because nowadays, certain people don't want certain other people to even come in their homes. You know what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. They don't even like us around their houses and their neighborhoods, right? If they see us rather in their neighborhoods, now you with me? If they see us in their neighborhoods, it's all of a sudden the community watches out. Now the police are patrolling and things like that. You know what's funny about that is you all are the thieves. There are museums all over this country and all over Europe filled with stolen artifacts from all manner of people of color. You didn't just steal our shit, you stole us. You burned our towns when we got more than you because you were jealous that we had more than you. If a person of color had a business and it was doing better than the white business of competition, you burned the business. You're always stealing from us, but you're always clutching your pocketbooks and checking yourselves. Like we're the ones who do the stealing. It's you all who do the stealing. And we have to stop feeding into that stereotype. Like it's us. It's not us. And we're not going to act like it's us anymore. It's you. You all have stolen entire countries from people. And yet we're the thieves. You lock your doors when we come around. You move out of the neighborhood when we move in. You couldn't be safer with us around. With us in your neighborhood, you couldn't be safer. But that thinking.
Oh, no, they know.
We know they know.
There was a video where they told this white child, if
you're out in the street and you ever feel like you're not safe, find a black man. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because we're the safest ones that you're going to find. Mm-hmm. And there are people who just bristled at that. Here's the thing you need to think about. I'm not even going to do that. I did that. Go watch the last video I did. And that's where I addressed that shit. But we used to warm your beds. Used to have little children who would lay in your bed to keep it warm. Beyond that, the milk from black bodies suckled your children. And you would say stupid things like, well, if the mammy at the time had a child of her own, sometimes you would either make her not feed her own child, or one breast was for the white child and the other breast was for the black child. Like it made a difference.
Like the water fountains.
Yeah, as if. Mm-hmm. If a kid is hungry and the other one is asleep, the mother is, especially because we now understand if a kid starts crying, a woman starts lactating. The common sense things that we overlook in our effort to continue the narrative in society. We have to stop doing it to ourselves, though. We have to stop doing it to ourselves. This is something that fucked me up, and it's something that I knew, but it was something that was brought to my attention again, and I just talked about it. I mentioned it briefly. There's something called the Common Sense Consumption Act. Have you heard of this? No. The Common Sense Consumption Act. You wouldn't have to hear of it because if you could see all the plants and stuff around here, you wouldn't know exactly. It doesn't really affect her. But the Common Sense Consumption Act what it basically says is that in this country, because this is where I'm talking about, in this third world country of ours, all of the stuff that you eat that's poison, you should know it's poison. It is not up to the manufacturers of the food to tell you that it's poison, and you can't sue for it should you die from it or get ill from it, or should you have any illnesses or any type of malfunctions in your body because of it. You can't sue because there's this act called the Common Sense Consumption Act, meaning you should have common sense enough to know what you're eating and what it can do to you. That's this country. That's the good old US of A. After that man, I think, sued because the man said, he said the Whoppers were making him fat, but you had your fat ass there every day. That's about the time, I believe, when when that came, was it? Yeah, I think it was that one. You can fact check that one. I might be a little off. It's either that one or there's another one in my mind. I don't think it was the Twinkie, but I think it was that one. But the Common Sense Consumption Act, you can check that. Yeah. So if you eat anything from the aisles in the middle of the supermarket, because 95% of the food that is in the supermarket today didn't exist 75 years ago. It's all manufactured now. It is all a bunch of chemicals that they put together. Oh my God. You know what one of my favorite snacks used to be? I used to, not as a kid, but just, I was younger. And I would go to the Chinese store and I would get crab sticks. When I saw how they were made, I haven't eaten a crab stick since and will not. All it is a bunch of stuff that they mix together and they spread it out on the sheet and it congeals, and it's not fish or at all. It's no type of real food. It's crazy. It's crazy that we do this. And even this myth, and this is the one that we were just watching just before. People in this country, particularly, I don't know if it's our society or what, that we think that people who don't have children are the people who are selfish. And I've heard that, like, you should have kids, your mother wants grandkids, all of this stuff. I've heard this stuff. And my mother even mentioned that once, I think. But here's the thing that I never understood, how that narrative is even laudable. Like, how do you even get, if you have kids, you take up more resources. That's just math. If you have less, if you have no children, you take up less. Your carbon footprint is less. You're doing less. You're not using as many resources. How is that selfish? To me, people who consciously go, you know what? No, there are enough people here. I can just enjoy my life. I don't have to have kids. To me, those are the mothers of the entire planet. Fuck the mother of one kid or 4 kids, however many you got. Those are people who mother the entire planet. They are the people who go, you know what? I'm going to keep this footprint down so that future generations can possibly enjoy it. Those are the people who look out in your neighborhood when your children are going wayward. It's the little old lady with no kids who will look out for your kid and go, are you okay? You all right? I have friends who don't have children, and they are the first to jump in when there's something going on with the woman. They're the first one to notice, oh, no, she doesn't look all right. We should check on her. Women are the protectors. We've had that conversation. Things like that, that natural instinct for women to protect, and women don't get the banner of being the protectors in our society. Women protect with their bodies from the time they conceive, and yet they are not the protectors of our society. We still think it's men. Men have to fight other men for women. They don't have to. They do sometimes, though, oddly. And we think that that's protective. I don't see how these ideas further our society. I don't see how disregarding them will hurt our society. I think a critical approach to all the information that we carry and that we disseminate, because that is the real problem. See, it isn't that I have a problem with you thinking what you want. What I have a problem with is having to deal with your children having that same information. That's where I have the problem, because it's not like you're going to keep that bigotry to yourself. You're going to give it to your children. It's inevitable. And that is what we have to deal with. If you took your ideas and took them to a desert island, I couldn't care less. The fact that you're going to have some kids and they're going to give you're going to give your ideas to the kids and they're going to pass them on to their children and so on and so forth, is how we still have these ideas here. We still think we have to be slaves to these traditions. Excuse me. We still think we have to practice this subservient culture, this God-fearing culture, to a God that doesn't belong to us. I'm not saying, and if there's one thing that I want you to understand, and it is not that I don't believe in something that is bigger than me. I believe that the idea that we are given about what's bigger than us is false. I believe the thing that is bigger than us is in us, and we should use it together. I don't think using other people's ideas of spirituality is going to get us anywhere. Where has it gotten us now? We don't ask ourselves critical ideas like, where was God when slavery was happening? For 400 years, God turned a silent ear, and we are supposed to still praise him. That is, if God is our parent, that is the very definition of neglect. He should be brought up on charges. If there was a council to take God in front of, we should take God in front of that universal council, because he has not been a good God. He has not been a gracious God. He has not been a compassionate God. The Christian God is not a caring, loving God.
Especially not the black folk. And
never has been. So, and please understand, when I say the Christian God, I'm speaking from the perspective of a person who was a Christian, but I was also a Muslim, and I know that that's bullshit as well. It's the same bullshit told in a different way. It's another way to keep people subservient. It's another way of keeping control. It is another way of keeping people doing the things that you want them to do in society so that you continue to line your pockets. It is continuously a business. And we don't search that out enough. We don't give that enough research. So if there's something that I want you to get from this, I want you to go and find, if you get nothing else from this, watching this video, but I'm going to prove him wrong, please do.
That's what we want.
That is the goal.
Prove me wrong.
If you found anything I said, if you can find fault in anything that I've said so far, please, I dare you. Please go search the information out. I dare you. I dare you to go and learn for yourself what this came from. I dare you to research each and every book in the Bible and find out why they left 75 of them out on purpose.
Please do.
I dare you to go to Vatican City and see what they do with all your money. Go. It's a religion that has its own city. What the fuck are you talking about? How did we get here? Why is it that we are so afraid of progress and being responsible for ourselves that we still need to give up the everyday workings of our lives to an invisible thing that we have never encountered ever? Why do we feel the need to do that? You could just as well give up your energy to green paint. You could just as well give up your energy to the cabinet behind me. It would make just as much impact. It's the same thing. The energy is in you. It really is.
You are a god.
Yeah. A lot of people hate to hear that. They don't like the power. And when Iyanla Vanzant said, people don't want to take responsibility for their lives. They don't. We want something to put, that's why we still believe in religion. Because if you take responsibility for your life, you can be a good person without having to believe that you're going to be punished for something that you do. Our whole journey here is meant for us to experience the range of the human experience. The fact that there's a punishment for a mistake that you might make in the human experience is so weird. The fact that y'all want to even believe that only goes to show me that you want something to use to put somebody else down. Somebody who sins differently from you, because you still sin. According to whatever that book is, you still sin. So that's where I am right now with that. I want you to begin to think. Our critical thinking skills are lacking in our community. We give everything over to other people because we are afraid. When I worked in social services for 15 years, I watched women come in every day with children because they expected a man to do something that he did not and was not able to do. He wasn't capable of doing, which is provide for the children. So they had to come into my job and get benefits, which I started calling my job daddy. I work for daddy. Because there are too many strollers out there for this not to be the father of something. It is taking care of all the children that the men have left behind. Because men aren't taught how to do certain things. Men aren't taught in our society the expectation of protection and provision. What that encompasses, what it's going to take to do that oftentimes. Not every time, but the results from many of them were people who came into my office. So that was just my experience with that, though. It's not indicative of the whole black population or what we are as a people, but we have to start feeding into the negative stereotypes that have been created for us, about us, from other people. We have to stop doing that. We don't need to beat each other in the head. If you don't like Kamala Harris, you don't like Kamala Harris. It is no need for you to tear her down as a woman in order for you to say that you don't like her politics. That's not necessary. I don't care if she fucked every person on the Hill. When it comes to a regular woman, we don't want her to be judged by her body count, but all of a sudden this woman's a politician. We got to judge her by hers. Why are you in her panties? Judge her by her work. If that's not enough for you, you really shouldn't be making decisions like this. Which is the other thing we're not taught in this country. We're asked to make decisions without giving any provision as to how the best way to make this decision is. We aren't taught how to choose presidents when we're in school. We're taught it's a popularity contest. You vote for the guy who says the things that you like the most. The things most popular for you, if he says that he's going to do those things, that's who you vote for. It's a popularity contest. We don't go to check people's backgrounds. Even when the person's background is thrown in our faces, oftentimes we ignore it. So what is the purpose? But you don't have to tear people down in our community to build somebody up. You don't have to do that. It's not necessary. And if you do have to do that, what type of person are you? Ugh. Like, you still gotta attack somebody's personal habits or proclivities in order to make yourself feel good? Really? For her to do a job, you gotta attack all that stuff about her in order for her to be able to do a job. And I don't care whether she wins or loses. I don't give a fuck. I think it's all a bunch of bullshit anyway. But I'm just saying, the public tearing down of somebody who looks like you is unnecessary. You can disagree with their politics and go on about your life. We're adults now. Or did you not get the memo? So that is all that I have on this subject. I would really like y'all to think more. And if you watch this video, and again, if you disagree with anything that I've said, I'm more than welcome you to first do your research, because I don't want to have a conversation with someone who hasn't done any research. That's the problem why I stopped doing my podcast before, because I encountered a whole bunch of people who wanted to say a whole bunch of things but didn't want to do nothing. And I get so sick of that. Like, if you don't, I don't care either way, but don't bring it to me like it's something that you want to do and you don't want to do it. Don't do it or do it. But leave me out of it. Here's this thing. It's a dopamine. It's a false dopamine.